Hi, my name is Kevin Scott Searcy, and I am actually a twin flame. Let me give you a little bit of story about everything that's happening. I don't have anything ready or prepared, but I feel like I needed to act. I feel like I needed to start having a voice with this. I have a very long story. I have gone through. This is 10 years in the making of this story, and I'm a twin flame. Let me explain what that is. There are like anywhere from like 100,000 to like almost probably like a million people going through an awakening experience. They're going through a Kundalini awakening experience. That is, it's basically a chakra awakening experience. They are becoming spontaneously, their chakras are becoming spontaneously activated, and it causes them to go through, most of them should be going through it's called a Kundalini awakening. It's the, in ancient history, it's the snake, that is referred to in ancient history. But they basically, it connects you to another person. A lot of them are, they don't really understand. They're going through a lot of a difficult time at the moment right now, and this spontaneous chakra awakening connects you to another person through chakras. You could your the energy field. It's basically, it has to do with the energy field of your body. Connects to another energy field of another person's body, and they're at vast distances. It doesn't have to be somebody right next to you. It could be far away, but you are able to connect to in one another's chakras through each other's energy spheres. It's kind of hard to say. It's hard to explain. It has to do with a higher level of consciousness, and you rise up into this higher level of consciousness, and you kind of play at an energy field that is. It's hard to explain. It's in the air. It's in the air, and so I've been compelled to act, compelled to have a voice. I have a very long story, and I'm working on a book. I'm about halfway through just like a first rough draft of a book, and I have like movie ideas and documentary ideas and that kind of stuff. But I've actually been pretty silent as a twin flame for the past 10 years, because of the story I've gone through. If I ever do complete some work, to hear the story I've gone through is pretty intense. It hasn't been nice to me at all, and this awakening has connected me to somebody, and it has been a very difficult process. If you get on Facebook and you look up twin flames, you'll see, a lot of them talk about the difficult process between connecting to another person. They're separated chakras. You start feeling the chakras. You have what's called chakra pools, where like you'll actually feel like in your chakra and in your chakra lines and all throughout your body. You'll actually start to feel. It feels like a tug, like a tug, like you're tugging. It can vary in intensities and degrees and shapes and sizes and that kind of stuff. But anyways, because of the particular situation of the world, I have a different case. I have pretty much the same case, but mine has, I'm able to actually claim kind of being able to archangel, so to speak. I could arc to other people. My chakras, I'm able to actually arc to other people and connect to their chakras, more than just one, multiple people. I could telepathically talk to them. We do that on a constant basis every day with chakra feelings, with chakra pools, telepathy talk. There is, I know telepathy sounds like, I know this all sounds like a box of woo woo, but I'm trying to actually start doing some videos to try to like start trying to have a voice and act in what the world is going through today. I don't have anything, actually professionally prepared, but I'm just going to go on a whim here and just try to do my best here. Um, uh, but these aren't a box of woo-woo things. These are those esoteric kind of ways that in our world we've kind of all shoved to like this, we call it the box of woo-woo. And yes, we could telepathically talk. I've actually been doing some research, found a recent report with a doctor who has basically explained in grave detail what happens biologically with the body and its capabilities to communicate telepathically when the chakras are awakened. This does have to do with Eastern belief systems, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. Those are it started with Hinduism. Hinduism understands this in a term of that this biologically happens to the body. This is a biological thing that your body is capable of, and I call it a building block. I call it, we have an internal building block in us that we don't know about or we push to the side. But long story short, and I'm going to try to do multiple videos. I'm trying not to make them too long. I'm, going to try my best here. But with the world the way it is, with between Christianity and extreme Islam, and with Hinduism and everything, everyone's kind of, I'm a Christian. I was born and raised in a Christian family. I regularly went to church. Um, I truly, even though I'm having a chakra awakening and Kundalini awakening, and I could talk telepathically and all that stuff, I believe in Christianity. I believe that I enjoy the experience. I enjoy going to a church, and when the music's playing and the pastor's got a good sermon, I'll get emotional. I'll even get watery, teary eyed, and I'll get emotional, get chills, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm really really feeling it, really into it. Um, and I know how our world is at the very moment dealing with extreme Islam, extreme Muslims, radical Islam, I guess you could say. Um, I understand how that's a very, very, very difficult subject right now. So, um, what I'm doing these videos for is not a fight with Christianity versus extreme Islam, or Christianity versus Muslims, or Christianity versus Hinduism or stuff. This is about that they all encompass going through a particular experience that creates each and every single one of them. And that experience, believe it or not, I know our world believes it's a box of woo-woo, but believe it or not, that experience is through the chakras. It's a chakra awakening experience. It is a Kundalini. They're not just working on the chakras. They have an actual Kundalini awakening. Um, in deep research, you'll find that it's like at the base of your spine, and then like it activates, and then it's the root chakra. The root chakra at the base of your spine activates this internal serpent, so to speak. It's not like you have a snake inside you. It's the way they describe it, and I could talk to you some more about some of those details. But it's like the double helix, and it goes up to the top of your head to your pineal gland. and then what happens is your pineal gland decalcifies. It kind of like pops, and a drip of oil starts dripping down your spine. It goes up your spine to the top of your pineal gland, and then down back down to your root chakra, and it like looks like a double helix basically as it goes up and goes back down. Um, there's probably a lot of like reasonings between like why our DNA code looks like that. You see that a lot, and you'll see the double helix a lot in like ancient depictions and that kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make some videos and try to describe these things, talking about how Christianity, Christianity. Muhammad from the Quran, Hinduism, all the gods there, all of it, Taoists, Buddhists, any saint, a lot of saints throughout our entire life timeline of history, of world's history. Um, they have all had a chakra awakening with a kundalini awakening experience. It is the baseline of how all of these things come to be. um I know no one wants to believe that. No one wants to believe that Jesus had a Hindu experience. No one wants to believe that Muhammad had a Hindu experience. But what the Hindus described in the Rig Vedas and the Upanishads of their text, is is what they were describing. They didn't. What they were describing is what happens to the body. Who who are we? What is our body, and what is it capable of? They didn't really. That was the first set of texts that happened, and they didn't really see it being like it was going to be like an all out war, like this god versus this god or versus this god. Um, and I know no one wants to believe that. And then what it is that people want to say, well, where does that say that in scripture? It doesn't say that Jesus had an Hindu experience in scripture. It does. You have to read between the lines. It's how like we'll do research on Christianity and we'll dissect it, and between a Greek and Hebrew language and stuff like that. What do these numbers mean? What does 144,000 mean? Why is there seven a lot of times? Seven is in the book of Revelations a lot of times because of seven chakras. The 144,000, just a quick little thing. 144,000, there's a couple of things. It does not mean an exact amount of people. It could mean a frequency. There's a couple of people that view it as a frequency. 144,000 is also 12 times 12 times 12 times 1,000. So 12 times 12 is 144, and if you times that by 1,000. Now, what 12 and 12 is 12 is the 12th level of consciousness connected to another 12 person level of consciousness, arcing like a twin flame arc level of consciousness to the 1,000th power, which is an additional description of level of consciousness. That is where like Godhead is. And there's a lot to describe here. So I'm just actually starting this. This is my first video, and like to actually try to do, I can't even do anything really legitimately here. Yes, I am in a motel. Yes, I don't have front teeth. No, I am not in any derogatory sense. I know what people are going to say, and I've even tested some waters out there with some Facebook posts and stuff like that. I know the feedback that is going to happen here, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyways. I am not nearly prepared. The teeth, that's because of a very long story of my life of 10 years. No, there was no drug activity involved into it. Motel 6 that I'm at is actually because of another very particular situation that is still encompassing of the 10 years. What it is twin flames go through what's called the separation period. It doesn't have to mean it. Current your current web pages will describe to you about, like, it's a runner and it's chaser, and they must be separated until they mirror one each other correctly. And there's yes and no's there. Those have a lot of details too as well with it. But that's kind of what I'm going through at the moment. And I just really, this has nothing to do with anything else except for the fact that I've spent 10 years telepathically talking a lot about this to my twin flame partners. I do have one on the right and I do have one on the left. I have quite a few actually over here on the right, and there's some that show up on the left. And I won't go into a bunch of detail about some of the people, but I will talk about a couple without their names and describe to you why there's a right and why there's a left. If you've ever noticed, while Jesus holds up his right hand, there is a specific reason why there is a right side of things and a left side of things. And so, anyways, this video, without trying to go on, I'll go on for like ever. This will be like a video 24/7, 365 days straight. I'm trying to put together a book and a movie and a documentary, and I'm trying to do this right, because I feel it is very necessary to do this. But on the baseline of this video, just thus far, is trying to help with the world in its current situation with the fight between Christianity and radical Islam, and what's happening there. Why is that even taking place? Why is there one prophet versus another prophet, or a Messiah versus another prophet, or a Messiah, whatever you want to call it? There are different degrees as to why one would be considered different than one another. That all of that, whether you want to believe it or not, all of that is a biological experience that the human body is going through, that is directly connected through a chakra activation and a Kundalini awakening. I know in scripture, as far as Christianity goes, in scripture, in the Bible, it doesn't say that directly. The reason why it doesn't say that directly is because there's a lot of problems. You have to look in, you have to take into account the world and the demographics and geological locations of these specific events, times in history that they've happened. So take Jesus 2,000, some odd years ago, 2,000 years ago, So he's over there in like the Middle East, kind of like Jerusalem, area, in that area, right? So, if you want to think about like America over here with our mostly Christianity views, but you have freedom of religion here, so America wasn't even here yet. They didn't even know about this land. That was 2,000 years ago. Think about everything. Jesus didn't have a car. We have cars today. Jesus didn't have toilet paper. We have toilet paper today. We have to look at these things in a timeline of history that keeps going forward. So, and there's a lot of things that this isn't just going to be one video. I'm already at like 19 minutes. I'm like, crap. There's totally not enough information I've given to you yet. This is an ongoing event. It happens about approximately every 500 years, and every epoch change that varies. I forget the exact years, but it's like there's like this. There's a shorter one. There's like one at like 1500 years, 2000 years, 2400 years, and stuff. We are actually at the epoch change of what is it? We went from the Bronze Age, and we're going to the Iron Age, or we're from the Iron. I like I said, I don't have. I know these things, but I need to probably take better notes. And I have, but I'm just kind of going on a whim here. So work with me. Um, but in recently on Facebook, there was a lot of people that were like, "Oh, okay," and there was a specific date. I can't remember the date coming that it just passed. There was a rapture. This 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 pastor or preacher, somebody had said, okay, on such and such date in 2025, there's going to be a rapture. And it was like all over like Facebook and stuff. And people were like, oh, okay, so when's this rapture going to happen? And then it came and it passed. The rapture's here. It is here. It's not what you think. And this, like, you're just sitting on your pew at church and then you go up. It's not like that. And it's not even a rapture. That wasn't, there's no description of an actual rapture. What it is it's an enlightenment that takes like 300 years to actually like establish itself. Then we go on for like a couple thousand years. Then it kind of like, then we come in like another collide within like our social and cultural atmospheres, and then it hits another enlightenment. Now, the reason what's happening here is it's orbital alignment. If Every 500 years, now I gotta check into some details here. Every 500 years, there's like this blood moon, and it actually has to do with a specific orbital alignment of the stars and the stars and planets and moons and stuff like that. That that bounce this energetic signal to us on planet Earth. This is the honest to God truth. That happens about every 500 years. Every we're entering an age where it's at 2025 is when the rapture, quote unquote, an Eastern calendar, an Eastern belief calendar has this written down, where in 2025 it is where a specific date of where it was going to take place. But it goes on for about 300 years. This goes on until 2325. And in 2325, then we enter like this age of where it's just kind of here, but we're just a people that just keeps going along. Our civilization, our life just happens. This was an event that happened. It's here. It's supposed to bring new enlightenment and knowledge to us as a people, as a whole. And then it goes through like this other 300-year phase where it's like an approach to another big changeover where there's a line. There's one changeover to another. Excuse me. I'm doing this on the cuff here. So um, that happens routinely. It's on a It's on a 12,000 year cycle, with every one of, I forget they're broken down into exact number of years, and I can't remember, but it's the Yuga. It's called a YUGA. It's a Yuga cycle, and we're entering into the technological age, the electrical age. Actually, before Jesus's time was the electrical age, and then it became, I forget the names exactly, but then it goes back into an electrical age. And if you actually look at it, it makes perfect sense. We've already been pre-lining up to this electrical age, where basically we have start having a lot of electrical advancements, and that is where we're going to go forward and do. We're going to, like, you got AI is going on. You got quantum computing, all that stuff. More into all of that stuff, but that is actually a process in our civilization that we are to go through. But it doesn't mean that as we go through that, that means that God takes a back burner. God is here. God is actually here, present amongst many of us, and as an enlightenment, as an energy amperage, enlightened person, activated to be an angelic messenger, and to help inform people about what is going on and how to do these things. So Jesus was a product of that. Before Jesus was Moses was a product of that, and then Jesus came, and then Jesus was a product of that. And actually, the deal with radical Islam, and because that's what's actually stirred me up to I just got to start doing videos. I could talk right off the cuff. I don't have all the paperwork down, but I'm working on it all. It's a really long process. Like, these are 1,000-page books, like I'm reading 1,000 pages in the Quran. I'm reading 600 pages in the Gnostic Nag Hammadi text. There's 1,000 pages in the Bible, between the Old Testament and New Testament. 1,000 pages in the Upanishads. So I'm reading on these things and stuff, and I do a lot of research. But anyways, so radical Islam, and I know what it says in the Quran. I'm not, and this isn't a video saying I'm being a sympathetic person there. You have to understand exactly what's happening here before we butt heads too hard. And granted, I've read the Quran. I read the text on where they have a lot of transgression, a lot of frustration. There's a lot of what on the surface it seems like it's a lot of anger and hatred and stuff. And that's as far as radical Islam, that's all they know. What happened with that? I'll give you a little brief. I'm trying to make these 30 minutes long at most. I'm at 27 minutes, so just hang on. What's happened over there is, there was Jesus' time. Okay, then Jesus passed, died on the cross, and then we started a new time. There's also with dates and time. Do you know there's actually a Quran calendar? They're in like a total different year than we are, quote unquote. So Muhammad didn't actually happen until about 600, till a little over 600 years later. So if you bear with me here, really seriously, bear with me here. That's an approximately 500 years later after Jesus, and that would be basically saying it's not always about a Jesus resurrection. It is about God channeling his energy into somebody as an enlightenment. Now, just bear with me here, because you have to think about that in the time of history, what that was in. Jesus passed. Jesus died. Jesus was a major player. 300 some odd years after that, they had that Nicene Council, where the Nicene Council, where where they started canonizing it, the Bible. The Bible that you read now was canonized and put into an exact structure the way it was 1700 years ago, and it was used as an instrument of power to control people, to it's I'm not talking bad about Christianity. That's literally the history of a Nicene Council of kings and stuff during that time, using structuring the Bible and its text in a way to use to the people. And it's not wasn't necessarily about control, but we're going to get into a lot of details here. I'm going to try to keep up with doing these videos. I'm going to try to cut it real soon right here quick. Anyways, a little quick little issues with what's going on there. And what Muhammad noticed, was that the Nicene Council, that was his most recent history. He came 300 some odd years later. So that was his most recent history. He noticed how Jesus happened. Then they took control of it, didn't spread around what actually, that's why we have there's now, granted, you have the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Gnostic texts. Some of that stuff wasn't found until later. But the truth of what they witnessed at that time, there was still a buzz, and they wanted to population was growing. You started having Rome fell, so you started having, you needed a way in order to conform and not control, but to help guide your people better. So anyways, that happens 300 years 300 years after Jesus. Muhammad comes 300 years later. That's his most recent history, and he sees a disagreement between the people that have taken over control over the Bible and what really happened in the Bible, all while Muhammad is actually having the same experience that Jesus had as well. I know you probably want to throw shit at me through the computer screen, but just hear me out, because, and I'm not saying good, I'm saying, and in that book, when it's describing their fighting terms, Muhammad did have to go through a lot of territorial fight at that time. And even reading it, I'm like, man, dude, you could totally tell like his transgressions, his frustrations. And it went from even, how we analyze the structure of our Holy Bible text. You could even see it in his text, where there was a mental and emotional anguish between the topic of what the text was actually supposed to be, and then there's a few chapters of it, and then a bunch of other chapters about something else, and then he had to close it off with what he started the chapter with at the beginning. So now, quick little tidbit. This one's being a little bit longer, so just bear with me. On the surface of that text, and on the surface of the Quran, and on the surface of the Holy Bible, both parties do not know that it actually has to do with a chakra experience and a Kundalini awakening experience, that which is described by the Hindus. I know what you're talking about with multiple gods and Hindus and that stuff like that. That's going to be another thing. We'll talk about that. They're not actual gods. They just call, I could call myself a god. I could say I'm God of talking on the computer. I am, that was just how they were able, that's just how they described it. It didn't mean that they were actually multiple individual gods. Then the one God, there's one God, and there's one God, he comes down, he branches out to different people at different times. I'm actually in California, in America. This experience at this time, if you look on on Facebook. It is happening into various different places too, well, around the world. And there, you also have to figure about how information was given at that time. Today, we're hooked up to the web. You could find out anything about anywhere, anyone, anywhere. Yeah, and you could get information to anybody as quickly as possible. They didn't have that then. So, anyways, that is the problem. That the problem is that no one on the surface right now, no one knows how to identify this thing with chakras, and it's because they believe that the Hindus that talk about that are talking about polytheism and multiple gods, and that just doesn't sound. That's just that Jesus was talking about being one God, and that makes sense. All of that doesn't make any sense. That makes sense. That doesn't. But that's because they just call themselves gods of things. That's just it's how it worked. And this even goes even further than that. This has to do with the play in the cosmos and the stars and the suns and the moons and that kind of stuff, and how the world all came to be. So um, that is number one, the underlying problem of the whole thing, and that's why I feel compelled to speak. I'm going to try to do my best just to explain what I could explain, because I am going through the same experience. Believe it or not, I know how that doesn't make sense in this world, but all of us twin flames are. I have arcing abilities. I do talk telepathically. I have full blown chakras with 72,000. There's 114 chakras. Is 72,000 nodes in the body. It actually runs along the endocrine system and the nervous system. And actually, these girls that I'm attached to with chakras, and we'll get into that. Like, they can make this whole arm hot. They can make my head feel like it's crushed in. There's a lot of like, we'll get to talking about like, but I could also feel love. Like, they can make my heart feel like love. We've actually it's gone on so long, we've established like a language. Like, I know when something is a yes or something is a no, or something is right or wrong, or they could you know how like on the bottom of your foot has an arch. So like they'll do like a sensation on the arch of the bottom of my foot, like because I arced, because I arced to them. So it's a very long story, and it actually hasn't been very nice to me at all. But I would try to start describing these things to people. So, but anyways, the only takeaway I wanted to try to express here is that first and foremost, on the surface, I understand what our argument is there, completely, utterly understand it, but really, honestly, in today's world, nobody, the Pope, the President, nobody understands this thing from a chakra point of view, and that is where it all starts. And so, I hope to continue to explain more to you. Thank you for watching. Thank you.